Hello guys, we make this video with AI bots because we think it's funny make hilarious video to you. Remember, the memes are the DNA of soul, so make them and enjoy the video.
Since time immemorials, well, in memorials it's done a lot, but since gaming has existed, the controller has reigned in the gaming world. It has reigned for 40 years or more, but today it will meet its greatest enemy, Hano, the program that allows you to control your computer and your video games with gestures. It's the program that will destroy controllers because there's no comparison between playing a video game with this and with a controller. Wait, this is like something you'd say if you wanted to earn your 5 minutes of attention on the internet. But how real is the claim? Better. And yes, this doubt has been haunting me for quite a while, even at the bank.
But what are you doing here? Can't I get a break from you for 5 minutes? No, I'm like the question of any other.
Toast of the day, why do you put a Fernandez with a bomb? So solve it, because the little ambiditas are going to be very intense. Another one.
With that said, let's start with the comparison. Let's begin with Hano's pros. Okay, the first pro I see in Hano is that it has no physical interaction. What does this mean? They can't get dirty or worn out. So yes, you can literally play infinitely with Hano and not have to buy another one. And you can also play your favorite game with your hand full of Cheetos and nothing will happen. The other advantage you can get from Hano, especially in the ultimate version, is the high customization. I swear it's infinite. And still, Hano in the gaming version has more customization than a controller. I mean, I have to say it, you can't make a controller that literally looks like it's made for 4 arms. So this is a pro for Hano because you can literally connect 10 controllers without any problem. Even more, if you have the ultimate version, it almost reaches infinity, literally. And look, and it's also cheap. I mean, Hano is 1,000 times cheaper in the market than a controller. The prices of a controller usually range between 40 and 60 euros, more or less. So the gaming version itself costs 30 EU, 10 euros less. Therefore, you can have a pretty good gaming experience for less money. And if you tell me, but the ultimate version is it's within the price range and all, that doesn't make sense. Well, I can tell you that the ultimate offers you more customization than many of the controllers that cost you more than 60 euros. So in terms of value for money, it can work very well. And especially this point goes for the essential version. The essential version is literally free. Yes, free-ish. Which means that yes, you can practically try the free version right now and experience a bit of what it's like. On the other hand, with a controller, it's a bit difficult because you either pay up or you don't have it. That's simple. And well, speaking of cheap, it's also important to consider one thing, and that is, in the long run, Hano is cheaper. As I was saying, since it doesn't have physical interaction, it doesn't wear out. By not wearing out, you don't have problems like drifting, etc. And you won't have to buy a controller every 5 years. Who makes space? Sorry for the technical issues. Well, with Hano, you don't have to buy another Hano every 5 years as usually happens. The only thing you would need in any case would be to download new updates if you want to have the most updated version. With the updates being free, then without the sense of also a house, it is to make the comparison with the price issue, because it literally costs you the 30 or 50 euros you pay directly. You won't have to pay more for new controllers, which may or may not last depending on where you buy them. Please don't buy them in the unique topic, because, and the last thing I could tell you regarding the topic of, one of the advantages of Hano is that you don't need much unless you have a camera, because with a low quality webcam, I think you can record an analog horror. You can use Hano without any problem. Aside from that, the only advantage more that I see of Hano is that the learning curve from zero to knowing how to use it comparatively is less than the controller. Let me explain. It's much more intuitive. That is what is more intuitive. Raising your hands, lowering a finger, making a gesture, or directly having to quickly learn how to use a controller. Because it's true, the problem with a controller is that it doesn't have automated things. And in the case of Hano, the learning curve is higher. Because you can lower a finger and make the character move indefinitely until you lower your finger again, for example, just to mention something. So, on a comparative level, if we have to put someone who knows nothing about video games to try the video game with Hano or with controllers, well, realistically, it's most likely that you can play the game quite decently with Hano before with the controller. Well, this doesn't mean that the controller is useless, just that the learning curve is faster. Well, let's continue with the pros of the controller. One thing that is indisputable in this case, and that is the controller has greater precision and speed compared to Hano. Because yes, it is very true, in games where the camera is fixed, you have no problem. In fact, it is literally an instant input as if it were a controller, or even faster. But the problem here comes in games that are a little more like beat 'em ups, where the camera is not so fixed. That is, you can't control it yourself there. The problem might start to become a little bigger, because I can tell you that for more precision games, a controller is 1,000 times better option than Hano. As I said, really, if you are someone super competitive, you should go for the controller, or at least in this comparison, because I know that most pros use keyboard and mouse, but that thing does not exist in this comparison. Another thing that is also true, which has been adapted in the world of controllers, and especially itself, the resolution has improved comfort. That is very ergonomic, to put it in some way. So of course it will be comfortable. That is to say, you can last longer with a controller for long sessions. I mean, there are people who play the same video game for 24 hours, and I mean in streams, not in real life, right? It might exist, but it's not the case for most people, nor is it realistically. Of course, so there are many streamers who spend 24 hours with a video game, or 5 hours, and the controller is more than enough for them, because the controller is ergonomic in itself, especially the latest ones. What else? It has features like, for example, active vibration, which, for those who don't know, is the classic vibration that controllers have had since the PlayStation 3 generation. And it has some advantages, like the DualSense. The advantages, I don't know if I should tell you. Honestly, it's a bit meh. What else? It's more portable. What does this mean? You can carry a controller, connected to your computer or console, and voila! You can play as a plug and play, basically.
The very concept is that you practically just connect it and you can play. And this also means that since it is compatible with consoles, it will be a bit difficult if you are a console user to use hand because it is not designed for that.
I still don't have the approval from Nintendo or from PlayStation or from Xbox to do that. This is the part where I become much more demanding with my own energy with hand.
And yes, someone might say to me, are you going to put the app there? Well, you could say yes, but it doesn't have some serious errors. There are others that do, that are truly a problem, which you already know how we solved. But there they are. Okay, let's start with something that can indeed be quite serious for a certain type of player.
Indeed, with hand, as I mentioned in the previous point about the controllers, it's a bit difficult to play video games that require precision and speed while playing. Shooters, for example, or something like that. And yes, it's true that you can configure the sensitivity of the virtual mouse you use with hand. Because yes, technically with hand you are using more of a virtual mouse rather than the program directly drawing its own conclusions about the movement. That's why there will be the little circle
pink on one of the hand points precisely because that is like a mouse pointer. So maybe with this some problems may arise in games like Fortnite, for example. And yes, the mouse setting would have to be super precise to find the exact one you need so you can move it fast enough and do at least everything for it to be effective. I still haven't found it, I must say.
And yes, someday I will probably upgrade to hand so that it has some more speeds, etc. But certainly I tell you that it is very difficult to play a shooter or a high precision game. And this doesn't mean that games like, for example, Street of Real can't be played. That is, you would need to have quite a well-developed pianist's hand in that kind of game, for example. And the controller will, yes, they succeed in this aspect, although it may be that with high customization, you can change that, like there is automatic control, etc. That is, the gestures that involve holding actions are somewhat habitual actions, so you can win in one of those games. And who knows, someone might try to get a good confirmation in shooters and succeed with their mouse sensitivity with the actions, etc. If someone discovers a really good setup for shooters, let me know because I would honestly like to try it. It would be interesting to see if someone manages it.
Because yes, I have given something so advantageous that you have customization that is almost once impossible for a single person to test, and it would be interesting to see it.
But that does not exempt my program itself from not being well designed at the moment.
For these type of games, which are more about precision and above all are online multiplayer against a random guy from the town, they won't respect that you're using hand. They'll shotgun you and send you to the lobby. That's it.
And yeah, I think it's better to show visually what the problem is, whether you have the default sensitivity or if you have the sensitivity set to maximum to give you an idea.
Okay. On the other hand, I have to say that another problem, although this one is not as serious in comparison, is the feedback you get from ham. Okay? For those who don't know what feedback is, although I doubt it, feedback in a device is usually a visual reference for or of any kind like vibration that gives the user a response about what they have done or what is happening.
In the case of video games, usually in the center of the controllers, it can even vibrate at the same time you make an attack or revive as well. And that's an advantage because you don't have to be fixed on the looking at the screen to get feedback.
With ham, it doesn't quite happen like that. Okay, I'm going to present the two scenarios. The scenario where you put the screen of the gesture visualization on top of everything with the letter T, with the tab key.
And yes, there you have the complete visualization and the visual reference. It relies a lot on colors, meanings. For the gestures that are maintained, it's simply in white, nothing more. And when you make a gesture, whether it's held or not, it might turn out to be purple. That's it. You made it that color precisely for that reason, to differentiate it.
Yeah, the problem here is that first, it is merely a visual reference. So what happens is that if you get a little distracted and turn your head away, you might get beaten up in a video game and I didn't even notice, and when I turned back, suddenly there goes my fear. They kill me and there shouldn't be any extra reference. Besides, in part, a bit of investment is needed, although there are many games that have this problem with the tone issue. So it's pointless to make this an important point. And on the other hand, I'm going to present the other scenario. The scenario where it doesn't put the viewing window in this above all the windows. That is, you open a window and they go underneath. And there are some games are disliked when we continue the same way. It puts everything on top.
So you can see the display window. And what does this mean? Well, it's very simple. It means that practically you will be going like this, wasting time over the course of the agaves with the movements you make.
Okay, so this is like a worst case.
Although, if I'm honest, it doesn't bother me because, let's see, at least when I play video games, I look at the screen. So I don't have any problem with this. It is true that when I play video games, a lot of windows pop up. It is true that it is a bit weird, sometimes uncomfortable, but this is a bit of configuration, except if jammed with a single mode.
So don't be afraid of this, or if putting on a game that you know needs to be converted and that overlaps all the windows, including the display.
It's an error, so it's not that important, right? Maybe one day the feedback was a bit more visual and everything overlapped, who knows?
Well, what else? Yes, the thing is that you simply have to adapt physically and mentally to that. Listen, as I said in the previous point, yes, I jam at the level of going from zero, avoid faster than a controller.
The problem here is that we are all like humans. So we start with apparently the scene. In these people who are still not used to this, to positioning arms, to the matter of not touching buttons or anything like that.
It's quite a considerable muscular adaptation you have to make, because switching from a controller to Hano is like switching from keyboard to mouse, from keyboard and mouse. I mean, it's a transition that takes more effort, and I can tell you even a little more. Why? Because simply and plainly,
don't provide you with anything. As I said, it's a very good advantage if you're starting from scratch or if you already have it synthesized. And the learning curve isn't very steep either. The problem is that your mind will be simply like, where do I press it? Where do I press it? And it's a problem that many suffer from. But don't worry, after about 3 days or so, I can tell you that you'll get used to it faster with our ventilations, etc. So there's no need to worry much about that issue.
Let's say it's more about adaptation and, well, it's a problem we can't really control. It's something of yours, it's something personal, something that makes you say, wow, how do I make the player adapt to this faster? Saan na nag-uwi siya?
Make it instant, because if I did that, well, I would be making a controller not doing hang. And okay, and here comes a problem that truly is very difficult to solve and can lead to an issue. Although I think I can offer you a small solution to this. It's not the best, but I think it works, which is the pose. As I said, with the controller, you can play for hours without getting tired. The problem with the hands themselves is that moving fingers and making gestures is, let's say, like another level, a bit exhausting for your body. And yes, if you do it in the area, get your butt ready, because you'll be using your forearms more than at the gym. I swear, you'll come out with arms worthy of Arnold Schwarzenegger. I swear. But there is an option, and it's simply to lean on the armrest of your chair, if there is one. And if not, then lean on the table. If you don't have much of it, then brace yourself, because you're going to do too much. And well, lastly, it's a small detail that isn't much of a problem, because if this is something intrinsic, it doesn't take that long. But it is true that the world wins. I wish for this, and is that I wish to have quite a lot of customization, with the idea that the more you go through the version, the longer the customization process is. And how is it done? Very simple, because what you need to do to create a new configuration is save a new configuration. Go to, finish configuring the fingers, and then start to assign actions, etc. Whether they are simple, just the action key and that's it, or if it stays, if you have to make the gestures, if you then have to save the entire configuration again. Do you understand what I mean? It's not something very complicated either, nor is it very time consuming. In fact, there is a default configuration that is quite universal for everyone. But I can understand if someone doesn't feel comfortable with their default configuration and then decides to create their own configuration. And before the thing, well, it's missing a little more. But looking on the bright side of that, if you're a streamer, you can take advantage of the type of customization to talk to the audience, or simply to tell a friend, hey, what if I put a finger slide on both hands so that it's the...
Let's see what happens.
It's a bit of time that can be useful for you, but if you're a person from here, like you and me, let's say it's not that useful. It's like time you spend. It's not bad time, but it's also not time that
You spend so much to compare, so to speak.
after having criticized a bit there in the interaction, although of course they are not a measure of the serious models, and not to mention that I have detected, mind you, everyone has their opinion and can practically detect other errors. So if you detect any other error, pass it to me in the comments box now so we can correct it and all that. And let's start directly with the disadvantages of the controller. I'll start with something that might seem trivial, and well, it's a small thing for the player, if you know what I mean. For the game developers, they don't find it very amusing.
And it's the lack of customization they send them. Yes, the designs are very economical, very compact, and all you want. But the problem comes when a game wants to implement a lot of mechanics. Then there's no problem because the keyboard and mouse, all you need to do to point to a button, a key, whatever you need. But with a controller, it becomes a bit more complicated, and I've seen super games where really I've seen stranger things to perform an action that make you realize why. An example of this is Metal Gear Rising. Ask a fan of Metal Gear Rising how to parry or how to block an attack. I swear to you, it's something that you don't understand why. Some way, surely, like, I don't know, in Sekiro, where you can block with a button, and when the enemy attacks and you block at the right moment, boom, that's it, done. In Metal Gear Rising, it's not like that. Do you know how that works? Well, basically, it's if you saw correctly, it's like saying you thank him, leave and press either button or, well, the button on the inside left. But these buttons on the right side of the controller, come on those, how? If it weren't for the lack of controller customization, how did you come to the conclusion that it's a very good idea to do this? Another example, the evasion in Metal Gear Rising. You literally need to direct the direction and press these two buttons. That last part is something that can be shortened because on the touch version, you can do that with the X key. And I give it as context because the controller creates quite considerable limitations in the gameplay of the game, and we probably missed out on a mechanic simply because it doesn't fit on the controller. Yes, a bit sad, but it happens. What else? Yes, that's true. Do you remember the example of the Cheetos hand which I said doesn't fit with this scenario? Well, it turns out that if you ate a mandolin of Cheetos with a controller, you're going to need it. And first, you'll be disgusted. Really, it doesn't even affect you after wiping your hands full of dry. And the second thing is that since you have physical wear, the problem is not going to work as well unless it's a low controller in application 3 because these are immutable directly. But beyond that, most controllers will exaggerate. I'm telling you right now that it's basically going to be 1, 2, 3 years, more or less, and you'll have to see how your controller starts drifting, doesn't respond to what you do, the sticks have worn out, and it's harder to perform some actions in games with the triggers, especially in theirs. And in general, it's quite a tricky problem to be honest because you have to buy yourself. And precisely the 40 euros they're going to charge you aren't bad. What else? Yes, it's true that the controllers Janus comparison which you have on your computer, it turns out that you need to recharge them with a cable or in the case of Xbox with batteries or you see that it's from your TV remote or what? So of course you realize it yourself. Yes, it seems that there are still analog controllers, which saves you the trouble of recharging them, but this means you have to connect them somewhere else. Simply and plainly, it's another issue with the aspect of the controllers. They don't have infinite energy. You need that, and it could be an obstacle to playing if you forget to recharge the controller. Let's say it's not such a common issue because it doesn't feel bad anymore. You have plenty. But there are times when, for example, some people have half of their controllers disconnect when they play on the phone or the other three, and you die. In summary, it's basically a problem where it can disconnect during the whole game. or you simply can't play and have to wait. I mean, for a video game, you really have to wait. I mean, for love, you have to wait for a video game to let your controller recharge. What else?
So it's not that versatile outside the realms of in how is this not what it says to make a serious entropy in the hand because it is designed. But it is true that you can navigate the internet with the hand. No kidding, it's basically like a keyboard and mouse, but with your hands. Obviously, you can do more things besides practically juggling or I don't know what with a hand, as if it were a bunch of mice and that's it. In fact, it can even help you write in the text chats of many games. And also, it works. Let's see if they understand for the little emoji pairs. I mean, what more do you want with that topic?
So, of course, it's a small problem that is not as versatile outside of the metric. Yes, there is some other program that makes the controller usable as a mouse keyboard on the computer, but it's something external. It's not something from the controller. It's not in the instructions.
We have already seen everything we needed to see about the proximity of the controllers and they left. So let's say the conclusion is much clearer now, in my opinion. And yes, this has turned out to be a bit ironic and also, let's say, a controversy.
My opinion, and I believe the conclusion I've reached, is that the controllers are not going to be dethroned by Han, but neither are the controllers going to dethrone Han. Basically, both devices are, well, both means rather.
They are not two very different things. You can't compare a plane trip to a boat trip. It's that simple. They are two different experiences. What are you highlighting here for me? Well, that one is the top classic what always works and is also comforting today, even though more than 40 years have passed since the first controller with the so-called 2006. Here, Han gives to show another perspective on video games. Han is not metal to make you laugh and have fun in a different way.
I believe the best thing we can do for this comparison is to look at it as our brother's territory. Of course, they are compared. Obviously, there are objective things that can be seen, but they are two different mediums and one is not going to throw the other overboard.
And yes, Han will always be used because simply, first,
but more for the gaming field, which is an extra, and the second is that it is a unique experience, and that in itself, I believe, is that someone still enjoys or will continue to enjoy playing with gestures.
for example, the little time I have been able to set aside for playing is usually for hunt tests. I've played it and honestly, well, I haven't really thought much about playing with controllers. The only time it crossed my mind, to be honest, was with shooters, but no other game came to mind. And honestly, Han gave you a feeling of challenge, like, let's see if you can surpass consoles with controllers in video games.
Whether you want it or not, it's something that seems crazy to me, you know? I mean, video games also have to be challenging for you to use them well.
And if what you really need is a video game, it's always called, what I would recommend is, if besides doing it, you also take Han for what it is, a video game. It's made for fun, it's not a competition, you're not in a World Cup all the time. There are times when it's good to disconnect once in a while, and believe me, it feels good. Well, the conclusion has been a bit, let's say, unexpected, and surely some may have different opinions. Anyway, what did you think of the topic?
And tell me in the comments, because your opinion matters, and that's why I would like you to tell us the good, the bad, and the ugly about Han. And your perspective on this whole topic will also be useful to us.
And finally, I have been able to rid myself of this doubt I had that was following me to the damn bathroom finally. No, the thing is that I will no longer follow you, but rather it will be my great friend, which is better a femboy or a tomboy. I hope you have a good day and we'll see each other in the future. What is gayer to like a tomboy or a can you not?